The claim. Marcus Chen's boots crunched against the gravel of his driveway as he approached his home for the first time in 14 months. The extended engineering assignment on the Europa colony had been both lucrative and career-defining. The kind of opportunity that comes once in a lifetime. Now all he wanted was to sleep in his own bed and enjoy the comforts of Earth gravity. The sunset cast long shadows across his modest two-story colonial in the suburbs of New Portland. Despite the weariness seeping into his bones, Marcus smiled. Home at last. That smile vanished when he noticed the strange blue glow emanating from his living room windows. He punched his access code into the front door lock, but it flashed red, denying him entry. 14 months away, and the system's already malfunctioning, he thought bitterly. He pressed his thumb against the secondary biometric scanner, which beeped affirmatively. The door slid open with a hydraulic hiss. The smell hit him first, a pungent mixture of ozone, and something vaguely floral but distinctly alien. His living room had been transformed. The furniture was rearranged in concentric circles around a central point where a strange crystalline structure pulsed with blue light. The walls were covered with flowing script in no human language he recognized. "Hello, property occupier Marcus Chen," came a voice from behind him. Marcus spun around, dropping his luggage. In the doorway to his kitchen stood what was unmistakably an alien. Standing about 5 feet tall, the being had iridescent blue-green skin that seemed to shift colors with each movement. Its 4 arms were folded in what appeared to be a gesture of greeting, while its large, multifaceted eyes studied him with evident curiosity. "What the hell are you doing in my house?" Marcus demanded, his hand instinctively moving toward the emergency comm unit on his wrist. "I am Zexpol of the Meridian Collective," the alien said, its voice strangely melodic, yet clearly produced by some form of translator. "I have claimed this dwelling under Section 7, Article 12 of the Galactic Homestead Act, as ratified by your United Earth government." Marcus stared in disbelief. "What are you talking about? This is my house. I own it." "Ownership is a fluid concept across interstellar jurisdictions," Zexpol replied, gesturing with its upper right arm. "I have occupied this unclaimed dwelling for the legally required period of 60 solar rotations. I have improved the property substantially. I have registered my claim with both the Galactic Registry and your local Earth authorities." Marcus's comm unit beeped. He glanced down to see a notification from the New Portland Municipal Court. His eyes widened as he read, "CUMMONs. Zexvol v. Chen. Property Rights Dispute. Case #2189 CVG 4421. You're suing me. For my own house." Marcus's voice rose in disbelief. "It is the proper legal procedure," Zexval said with what seemed like a shrug. "I have followed all protocols. Your dwelling was empty. No life signs detected for over 60 rotations, under the treaty that constitutes abandonment." Marcus took a deep breath, trying to process this bizarre situation. "Look, I was on a work assignment, on Europa. That doesn't mean I abandoned my property. I have the deed, the mortgage payments, everything. All will be considered in the adjudication process," Zexval replied calmly. "Until then, I maintain legal occupancy. You may, of course, file a counterclaim for temporary cohabitation rights." Marcus ran his hands through his hair in frustration. "This is insane. I'm calling the police. They have already been consulted," Zexval said. "Officer Kim and Officer Washington both determined this to be a civil matter requiring judicial resolution. They provided quite helpful information on your legal system." As if on cue, Marcus's comm chimed with an incoming call from a name he didn't recognize. "Abigail Winters, Housing Rights Division." "I suggest you answer," Zexval said. "Ms. Winters is the court-appointed mediator for our case." With a curse under his breath, Marcus accepted the call. A hologram of a middle-aged woman in professional attire appeared above his wrist. "Mr. Chen, I'm Abigail Winters. I understand you've just returned home to find yourself in an unusual situation." "That's putting it mildly," Marcus replied. "There's an alien squatter in my house, claiming they own it, and apparently they're suing me." "Yes, it's quite unprecedented," Winters admitted. "But the Galactic Homestead Act was indeed ratified 4 years ago during the third round of treaties with the Galactic Confederation. It was buried in the appendices and hasn't been invoked until now." "So what am I supposed to do?" Marcus demanded. "Sleep on my own lawn. The court has arranged temporary accommodations for you at the Stardust Hotel while we expedite your hearing," Winters explained. "All expenses covered. The preliminary hearing is scheduled for tomorrow at 9 a.m. "This is ridiculous," Marcus said, but the fight was already draining from his voice, replaced by exhaustion. "Fine. I'll be there." After ending the call, he looked at Zexval, who was observing him with what appeared to be genuine interest. "For what it's worth, I have maintained your dwelling with great care," the alien said. "Your collection of crystallized geological specimens was particularly fascinating." "Those are my grandmother's geodes," Marcus replied flatly. "And this isn't over." "Of course not," Zexval agreed. "The legal process must run its course." The new Portland Municipal Court was packed the next morning. Word had spread quickly about the unprecedented case, drawing media, curious onlookers, and a surprising number of both human and alien legal observers. Marcus sat beside his hastily retained attorney, Diana Fujimoto, a specialist in property law who had stayed up all night researching the obscure treaty in question. "It's not good," she whispered to him as they waited for the judge. The Galactic Homestead Act was definitely included in the treaties, but it was buried so deep no one paid attention to it. The intent was to establish protocols for colonizing uninhabited planets, not for aliens to claim houses on Earth. "But surely there's something about primary residences being exempt?" Marcus asked desperately. "The treaty language is problematic," Diana admitted. "It defines abandonment as absence of the registered inhabitant for a period exceeding 60 local rotations without evidence of intent to return. Evidence typically means active systems, scheduled visits, or designated caretakers." "But I was working on Europa," Marcus protested. "My mortgage payments were automated. My property taxes were paid. Financial transactions alone don't constitute evidence of intent to return under the treaty," Diana explained grimly. "It's a loophole no one anticipated." The bailiff called the court to order, and Judge Eleanor Okafor entered. A stern-looking woman in her 60s, she was known for her expertise in both Earth and extraterrestrial law. "This is case number 2189, CVG 4421, Zexval versus Chen," she announced. "Let me be clear from the outset. This case represents uncharted legal territory. We will proceed carefully and with respect for both Earth property law and our treaty obligations." Zexval's legal representative, a human attorney named Richard Gladwell, rose first. "Your Honor, the facts are straightforward. My client identified an abandoned dwelling, occupied it legally under the terms of the Galactic Homestead Act, invested substantial resources in improvements, and registered the claim properly. The treaty language is clear." Diana stood next. "Your Honor, Mr. Chen was away on a government-sanctioned engineering assignment on Europa. His absence was temporary, not abandonment. The treaty was never intended to override existing Earth property rights." Judge Okafor nodded. "Mr. Gladwell, can you address the matter of improvements? The Act requires substantial improvements to establish a claim." "Certainly, Your Honor," Gladwell replied. "My client has installed an advanced atmospheric purification system, a crystalline energy node that has reduced the property's carbon footprint to zero, and a series of symbiotic wall treatments that actively remove toxins from the indoor environment." He displayed holographic images showing the modifications to Marcus's home. Even Marcus had to admit they were impressive, if utterly alien. "And what of compensation?" Judge Okafor asked. "The Act does provide for reasonable compensation to prior occupants. My client is prepared to offer Mr. Chen 15% above the property's assessed value," Gladwell said smoothly. Marcus leaned toward Diana. I don't want money. I want my house. Diana nodded and addressed the court. Your Honor, Mr. Chen rejects any compensation offer. This is his home, not just a financial asset. Judge Okafor studied both parties. Here's where we stand. The treaty exists and appears to apply. But this case clearly tests the boundaries of its intent. I'm ordering a full evidentiary hearing in 3 days. Mr. Chen, you will have the opportunity to demonstrate that your absence does not constitute abandonment under the proper interpretation of the treaty. Zexval, you will need to prove that your claim strictly adheres to all requirements of the Act. As the court adjourned, Marcus felt a mix of hope and dread. Outside, reporters clamored for statements, but Diana whisked him away through a side exit. 3 days, Marcus said once they were alone. 3 days to save my home from an alien squatter who somehow has the law on their side. Not just any alien, Diana said grimly, showing him her tablet. I've been researching the Meridian Collective. They're known for this exact practice, finding legal loopholes to acquire properties across multiple worlds. Zexval isn't just a random squatter. This is a calculated test case. Marcus stared at the information scrolling across the screen. So I'm not just fighting for my house. I'm potentially setting precedent for all of humanity. Exactly, Diana confirmed. If Zexval wins, Earth properties could be vulnerable to similar claims whenever owners take extended trips off-world. Marcus looked out the window at the new Portland skyline, where human skyscrapers now stood alongside alien architectural forms, a visual reminder of Earth's relatively new place in the galactic community. Then we better win, he said softly. For everyone's sake. The defense. The temporary accommodations at the Stardust Hotel felt sterile and impersonal to Marcus. He paced the small room, unable to sleep despite his exhaustion. Diana Fujimoto had withdrawn from the case that morning, citing a conflict of interest. Her firm also represented several companies that did business with the Meridian Collective. His comm unit chimed with an incoming call. The holographic display showed a woman with close-cropped hair and intense eyes. Mr. Chen, I'm Sarah Okafor. Judge Eleanor Okafor is my aunt, which means I can't officially represent you in her courtroom, but I can consult. I specialize in interspecies law. Marcus sat up straighter. Why would you help me? Because this case matters, Sarah replied simply. If Zexval succeeds, it creates a dangerous precedent. I've been following the Meridian Collective's activities across 3 star systems. This isn't their first attempt at legal property acquisition, but it's their first on Earth. Diana mentioned something similar before she withdrew, Marcus said, rubbing his temples. So what do? We need to understand the Galactic Homestead Act fully, not just its language, but its intent, Sarah explained. And we need to know more about the Meridian Collective. Can you meet me at the university library in an hour? The Xenological Law section. Marcus glanced at the clock. 11 p.m. The library's open this late. For researchers with proper clearance, yes, Sarah said with a slight smile. I'll send a hovercab for you. The University of New Portland's library was a massive structure of glass and stone, with newer alien-influenced architectural elements seamlessly integrated into its classical design. The Xenological Law section occupied the entire east wing of the 5th floor. Sarah was waiting when Marcus arrived, surrounded by both physical books and holographic displays of legal texts. The Galactic Homestead Act was modeled after your American Homestead Act of 1862, she explained, gesturing to a historical document. The intent was similar, to encourage settlement and development of uninhabited areas. The key word being uninhabited. But my house was clearly inhabited, Marcus protested, just not at that specific moment. Exactly, Sarah said, bringing up another document. The treaty negotiators never anticipated it would be applied to developed worlds like Earth. They were thinking of uninhabited moons and planets. She pulled up a holographic display of the actual treaty text, highlighting specific sections. The treaty defines abandonment using meridian terminology, which doesn't translate perfectly. Their concept of residence is tied to continuous physical presence in a way ours isn't. Marcus leaned closer to study the text, so they deliberately exploited this cultural difference. It appears so, Sarah confirmed. And look at this. She showed him records of 17 similar cases across 3 star systems, all initiated by members of the Meridian Collective. In 15 cases, they succeeded in acquiring properties. In the other 2, the inhabitants returned before the 60-day period elapsed. What about the improvements they're required to make? Marcus asked. That crystalline thing in my living room, the wall treatments. Sarah nodded, pulling up technical specifications. This is where it gets interesting. The improvements are indeed advanced technology, but they serve a dual purpose. They're actually scanning and transmission devices, collecting data on human habitation patterns, construction methods, materials. They're studying us, Marcus realized, using my house as a research station. Not just studying, preparing, Sarah corrected. The Meridian Collective isn't just after your house. Based on these previous cases, they establish a foothold, then use it to facilitate more claims. It's a systematic approach to territorial expansion. Marcus sat back, processing this information. So this is potentially the first step in a larger land grab on Earth. It could be, Sarah agreed. But there's another angle we need to explore. She pulled up maps of New Portland, centering on Marcus's neighborhood. Your property is located just 3 miles from the new quantum communication array, the first of its kind on Earth, capable of instantaneous communication across light years. You think that's what they're really after? Access to the array. It would explain why they targeted your house specifically, Sarah said. Those crystalline structures they've installed, they could potentially tap into the array's quantum field, giving them unprecedented access to Earth's most advanced communication technology. Marcus's eyes widened. That goes beyond a property dispute. That's espionage. Possibly, Sarah cautioned. But we need proof. And we need to understand why they're using legal means rather than covert operations. They spent the next several hours diving deeper into Meridian culture, law, and history. As dawn approached, Marcus felt his spirits lifting for the first time since returning to Earth. I think we have something, he said, pointing to a section of Meridian cultural text. Look at this. In their society, legitimacy is everything. A claim obtained through deception or illegitimate means isn't just illegal, it's culturally worthless. They need the claim to be legally validated to serve their purposes. Sarah smiled. That's brilliant, Marcus. They're not just exploiting a loophole, they're establishing a precedent. If one claim is legally validated, then others become easier to justify. Marcus finished. We don't just need to win my case. We need to expose their entire strategy. The courtroom was even more crowded for the evidentiary hearing. News of the case had spread globally, with legal experts debating the implications for property rights in the age of interstellar treaties. Marcus sat at the defendant's table, now represented by Juliana Washington, a prominent property rights attorney Sarah had recommended. Sarah herself sat directly behind them, ready to provide consultation. Zexful entered with attorney Gladwell, both appearing confident. The alien's skin shifted to a deeper blue as it took its seat, a color Marcus now knew indicated formal engagement in Meridian culture. Judge Okafor called the court to order. This hearing will determine whether Mr. Chen's absence constitutes abandonment under the treaty, and whether Zexfell's claim meets all requirements of the Galactic Homestead Act. Gladwell presented first, methodically outlining Zexfell's claim. The alien had documented the unoccupied status of the property for 60 consecutive days, filed appropriate notices with both galactic and Earth authorities, and made substantial improvements to the property. Furthermore, Gladwell concluded, my client has offered generous compensation above market value, demonstrating good faith. When Juliana rose to present Marcus's case, she took an unexpected approach. Your Honor, We do not dispute the facts as presented. Mr. Chen was indeed absent for more than 60 days. Zexval did occupy the property and make modifications. Notices were filed. She paused. What we challenge is the interpretation and application of the treaty itself. She displayed a holographic timeline of treaty negotiations. The Galactic Homestead Act was written with undeveloped worlds in mind, the frontier of space exploration. Its inclusion in Earth treaties was meant to establish reciprocal rights for humans settling on uninhabited worlds. Judge Okafor leaned forward. Ms. Washington, while historical context is valuable, we must apply the law as written. Precisely, Your Honor, Juliana agreed. And the treaty explicitly states that claims must be made in good faith, without deception, and not in contravention of established local property systems. She displayed another hologram showing Marcus's automated mortgage payments, tax filings, and utility maintenance. Mr. Chen maintained legal ownership through established Earth systems. More importantly, the improvements Zexval made were not merely homestead enhancements. With a dramatic gesture, she revealed technical schematics of the crystalline structure and wall treatments. These are sophisticated monitoring and transmission devices, specifically designed to gather intelligence on human dwelling construction, and most concerning, to establish a quantum entanglement link with the nearby quantum communication array, essentially creating a backdoor into Earth's most secure communication system. The courtroom erupted in murmurs. Judge Okafor called for order. That is a serious allegation, she said. Do you have evidence these devices could access the array? We do, Juliana confirmed, introducing an affidavit from Dr. Eliza Reynolds, lead scientist on the array project. Dr. Reynolds confirms these devices could theoretically establish quantum resonance with the array's core processors. Zexval conferred urgently with Gladwell, the alien skin shifting to a mottled purple pattern, a sign of agitation, Marcus now knew. Gladwell stood. Your Honor, these allegations are speculative at best. The devices are standard Meridian environmental systems, nothing more. Then your client won't object to a full technical inspection, Juliana countered. Judge Okafor nodded. I'm ordering an immediate inspection of all modifications made to the Chen property, to be conducted by a joint team of human and Confederation experts. Gladwell appeared ready to object, but stopped when Zexval placed a four-fingered hand on his arm. The alien skin had settled into a deep indigo. Resignation. There is no need, Zexval said, standing. I withdraw my claim to the dwelling. The courtroom fell silent. Judge Okafor's eyes narrowed. Explain yourself, Zexval. The claim was legally filed, the alien said, its translator rendering the melodic language into flat English. But its purpose was broader than simple habitation. You admit to attempting to access the quantum communication array. Judge Okafor pressed. The Meridian Collective seeks technological parity, Zexval stated. Your quantum technology represents a significant advantage. We sought understanding, not sabotage. Marcus exchanged glances with Sarah. This admission changed everything. Judge Okafor considered for a long moment. I'm ruling as follows. Zexval's claim is dismissed with prejudice. Mr. Chen's ownership is affirmed without qualification. Furthermore, I'm issuing an Earth-wide injunction against similar claims under the Galactic Homestead Act as it pertains to established human dwellings. She fixed Zexval with a stern gaze. Additionally, I'm referring this matter to the Treaty Enforcement Division for investigation into potential espionage. Zexval will remain in custody pending that investigation. As the court adjourned, reporters surged forward, shouting questions. Marcus felt Sarah's hand on his shoulder. You've won more than your house back, she said quietly. You've established a precedent that protects all Earth homeowners. Outside the courthouse, Marcus faced the media. This case was never just about my home, he said. It was about establishing that humanity's legal frameworks matter, even as we join the galactic community. We welcome interspecies cooperation, but on terms that respect our sovereignty and rights. 3 weeks later, Marcus finally finished removing the last of the alien modifications from his home. The walls were once again the warm beige he'd chosen years ago, rather than the strangely iridescent material Zexpal had applied. His comm unit chimed with a message from Sarah. Treaty revisions adopted. New language explicitly protects primary residences on all signatory worlds. The Chen Provision, they're calling it. Marcus smiled as he sank into his familiar couch, truly home at last. On his coffee table sat a small crystalline fragment, the only piece of Meridian technology he'd kept. It glowed faintly in the evening light, a reminder of how close Earth had come to setting a dangerous precedent. The fragment wasn't just a souvenir. It was a reminder that in the vast expanse of galactic law, sometimes the most important battles weren't fought with weapons, but with words, interpretations, and the courage to stand one's ground, even when that ground was as small as a single suburban home on a planet just beginning to find its place among the stars. A notification appeared on his tablet, an offer from the diplomatic corps to join their treaty interpretation division. After all, who better to help navigate the complexities of interstellar law than someone who had successfully defended humanity's most basic right, the right to come home? Marcus looked around his living room, at the familiar walls that had nearly become someone else's, and tapped accept on the notification. His fight for his home had ended, but the larger work of defining humanity's place in the galaxy was just beginning.